Hey guys, Chris from Provo Beast Audio Installation, and in today's video, we're going to be replacing the factory head unit on this 2012 Toyota Tundra. Now in this install, we're going to show you how to remove the OEM radio. We'll head to the bench, show you the new parts that we're going to use for the install, including the new radio, dash kit, harness adapters. We'll come back here to get everything installed. Let's get started. Things to note before we jump in: this install more or less also applies to the trucks with a column shifter, not just a console shifter. Additionally, this install also applies to the trim if you have the JBL audio sound system, and oftentimes that's going to show on the door speaker grills if you have a JBL logo. If you have JBL, this still works for you. We'll show you what specific parts for your trim that are needed once we get over to the bench. First thing we need to do is actually take apart a little bit of the center console. It's all a layered approach, but that's going to give us access to pop out our heating and air controls to ultimately get to the screws that are securing the radio. First thing here, I have a couple of various panel trim removal tools. We need to remove the pieces around the cup holders. So we'll take this out first. Open up our glove box here and pop this trim up. Just like that. See, it's one big piece. It's going to expose a screw. It could be plastic or metal. Ours is plastic. Next here, let's remove our gear shift handle. It's a little sticky. This should start popping out. Looks like we're binding up on the gear shifter. A couple of ways to solve that. Now there is a quick release if your button's open, but make sure your emergency brake is on so you don't roll away. Or you could simply put the key in to pull back your shifter. You don't need to start it. We do have one harness connected to this panel. Once you pop down this panel, this panel is actually sitting on top. We don't have to take out the entire panel over the gauge cluster, but if we pull it just enough out of the way, it's enough clearance to get the radio out. So next here, what we're going to do is pop out our heating and air controls, just held in with clips here, and we're going to just slip those out. And then finally, it's going to expose 4 10mm bolts. The top is held in with clips. Okay, now, whoo, dusty. The radio is going to have quite a few harnesses connected to it, depending on your trim. Just disconnect everything that's plugged in. There's a little locking tab. You press it in, and it should release the harness. All right, here we are. At this point, what we're going to do is head over to the bench. We're going to show you the parts that we're going to need for our install. The parts that we're using in today's install, first and foremost, is the radio that the customer has chosen to go with. This is the JVC KW-M785BW. This one specifically has wireless Apple Carplay and wireless Android Auto. It's a fantastic unit for the price. In order for us to accommodate this in the dash, we need some install parts here. Now, depending on the trim of your truck, you're going to have a couple of different harness options. This one specifically today, we're going with the Crux SWRTY61S. This retains the steering wheel volume controls. Now, if you have JBL or the JBL logo anywhere in the truck, you're going to need this version and not that version. This one retains that factory amplifier. This is the SWRTY61J. As for a dash kit, to put this in the factory location, the dash kit calls for the Metro 99-8220 CHG. This is kind of the charcoal finish. There's a couple of different finish options available on the market, depending on the color of your trim. This accommodates both the single and double din because it comes with a pocket. Depending on the trim level of your truck, again, if you have a 1 year versus another, you may have something like a factory USB port. If you have an OEM USB port and you want to retain it with the new radio for wired CarPlay, wired Android Auto, Metro or Access makes a USB harness adapter. This is the AXTOY USB 2. This will retain that factory USB. Now, if you don't want to keep the USB, or your factory USB is broken, or you don't even have a USB at all, I do a lot of these Toyota USB little flush mount dongles. They snap right into place. These are fantastic. And I can link this in the description in case you want one of these as well. First thing we're going to do is grab our harness adapter. Again, we don't have the factory amp, so we don't need this guy today. We're going to grab the harness out of the box here. This does require a couple of dip switch programming, so it works directly with the steering wheel volume controls. We're going to grab the harness that came with our JVC radio, and today we're going to be preparing those harnesses, soldering those up. Alright, so we've done it. We've prepped our harnesses here. Now this is our Crux harness. This is our JVC harness, or whatever radio you're looking to install. Like I said, we're going to be soldering our connections today, and we've preloaded our harnesses with a bit of heat shrink. But if you don't know how to solder, crimping is your next best method, and you can either use butt connectors, or even better, crimp caps. Just don't twist and tape your wires, or even worse, use wire nuts. It's just not designed for an automotive application. Okay, we've soldered our connections here, and for the most part it was color for color. Now fortunately, there is a nice diagram of what color does what on the Crux side, and inside the box with the JVC receiver. Always match function for function, and don't always rely on the color alone. What we've done is made our connections here. Because we have a JVC Kenwood type radio, as for steering wheel volume controls, we need to pay close attention on where everything connects. Fortunately, they have a diagram of where everything will connect on the radio here, and they talk about dip switches. So we're going to swap to the other page here, and this identifies what dip switch configuration we need for our specific install. The first dip switches 1 through 4 are for the specific radio we're installing. Now in our case we're doing a JVC, so it looks like it's third from the bottom, and switch 1 through 4 for us needs to be off, on, off, on. And they're currently all set to on, so we need to 1 through 4 we need to do off, on, off, on. That's the radio. It even says radio right here. Now 5 through 8 is going to be for the specific vehicle, and in this case it's all Toyota, which is nice. So the configuration on this one is going to be off, on, off, on. Once again, off, on, off, on. So that now pre-programs our steering wheel volume controls. Below that's going to talk about how to connect those steering wheel volume controls physically to the radio, and it depends on the radio you're installing. And in our case, we're doing a JVC Kenwood. So we're going to look at this. If it's a JVC Kenwood, the blue-yellow wire is going to be used in our specific install. And it actually had a JVC Kenwood little flag. This is the blue-yellow wire, which connects to the JVC's blue-yellow wire, because it doesn't use the WR or wired remote input that kind of looks like an aux. It doesn't use that type of harness. If you're unsure what harness to use, always refer to your instructions. It'll walk you through, depending on whatever radio you're looking to install. With that out of the way, what we're going to do next here is we're going to move our heat shrink up and over those connections, and we're going to shrink it down with the heat gun. Last thing I wanted to mention, we added a couple other special connections here. For example, our blue-white amp turn-on wire. We added a little pigtail off in case we add another amplifier down the road. We just wired in parallel. And our power accessory and ground. We're doing a backup camera on this truck, a tailgate camera, and we'll link that video in the description. So we added a little red pigtail off of our red accessory wire and another ground. In addition, on that accessory we have a solid blue, which is your amplified antenna circuit. Our JVC doesn't have a blue antenna power wire anymore. We just snagged that accessory as power in order to trigger that circuit to get better AM/FM reception. But everything else, in our case, was color for color. Now, at this point, we like to wrap our harness with a little bit of high temperature Tessitate just to give it a little bit more protection in the dash. Okay, we have finished our harness here. We just spent some time, we insulated it. All these ends plug into the vehicle. This is for the factory aux. If you use it or not, if you don't use it, just keep these caps on. If you do use it, this will go to the aux input. We have our parking brake wire. In this case, you can just simply ground it. This is done, pre-programmed, ready to go. plug and play. It looks super nice and clean. We'll set this off to the side. What we're going to do next is we're going to grab our dash kit here, pull everything out, and we're going to get it assembled up and around our new radio. It does come with, over here, some singled-in components. We don't need the pocket or the brackets for a singled-in, unless your radio takes a singled-in. Sometimes it's a floating screen radio, but it has a singled-in chassis. That's when you'd use those parts. Our case, we're doing an in-dash doubled-in. Now there's already a piece here installed. We'll pull this on out. Now it comes with the provision for the doubled-in, which we don't need, and what we'll need to do is actually go ahead and cut that out. So just a pair of flush cuts, cut out that center support, just like that. What they also include is these left and right brackets. So you'll find the one that says R, that's obviously for the right. Same thing with the one that has the L on it for left. Alright, so we've finished mounting up our kit, put the screws in. We just took our time to make sure everything's even. We don't have any weird gaps or anything like that. It's looking great. Now the last thing we need to do to this kit is actually grab the OEM radio, and we need to pull off all our yellow clips because they will fit in the same spot here on the new dash kit, and so we want to keep those, retain those, so it snaps into place. Now this radio does come with the GPS antenna. Oftentimes we just throw that on the dash. Has some double-sided tape there, and has a Bluetooth mic. And we put this, you can put it by the rearview mirror. We usually put it at the top of the A-pillar. Depends on the customer preference. Then we're going to grab our USB adapter. At this time, with everything done really here at the bench, we're going to grab our kit, and we're going to head to the truck to start getting everything installed. Now, for that factory USB port to work, if you want to retain it, it's kind of a chore. You got to remove the glove box to get to the module that controls the multimedia interface. And it's the cable that's up underneath it. But then you can run your cable up to the aftermarket radio. That is all one option. Option number two would be just to swap out the factory USB spot with the square USB flash mount that I will link in the description, and you just leave this guy alone. That's up to you. A couple of screws across the top. You have to drop the airbag down below, a couple of 10 millimeters down below, and this comes out of the way. So we're going to drop that down so we can get to it and plug in our cable. So we dropped that module down, connected our USB cable. Now we'll fish this up into the dash cavity. Okay, so we're back in the truck. We're ready to start doing our final assembly here. Now we ran our GPS antenna, Bluetooth mic. They're just top of the dash, into the dash here. We'll make those connections. Now remember, we're not going to use all of these harnesses. A lot of them are required for the factory radio. But replacing it, we're not going to lose any factory function. Just a lot of this isn't required by our aftermarket head unit. So we're going to grab our harness and start making our connections. So let's grab our harness adapters and plug in the ones that do connect. Remember, we won't use all of them. Okay, those three. We're not going to use these guys. Here's our AM FM. We'll make sure we connect that as well. And we have our USB connection too. Remember, we connected that into the module. Let's grab our radio, start making the connections. All right, so we've made all our connections. We're going to tuck our harnesses back into the dash here. Okay, at this point, let's do a quick test. Make sure everything's working before we snap it into place. What's the weather like today? Okay, everything seems to be working. All right, so that's it. we are done with this install. Now, if you have any questions on what we did here, post a comment below. And like mentioned before, we did a backup camera. It works great. It's a fantastic upgrade and option for this generation truck. So if you want to see the step-by-step process for that install, we'll link it in the description for you. Now, additionally, we'll also link all the parts that we used in case you want to do this yourself. If you like what you saw, be sure to hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. I post great content on the channel all the time, and we'll see you in the next video.